Hello, guys. I have a good news for you. I'm the last one, but not least. So I hope my goal here is to keep you awake. So I will try to do my best. And I think I have a lots of hooks on the previous talks that I loved. I would like to talk a little bit with you. And again, this is my challenge. If I hear some rumors, someone is sleeping, I will throw my shoes, so be aware about that. So, my name is Francesco from Florence. I live here. If you have any suggestion about sightseeing, let me know. I'm happy to reply to this. Working from Spotify, working on, I am an open source enthusiast, authors of books, videos, developer advocate. I do many things, but this is the boring part. Instead, what you should expect from this talk today is to talk about something that we touched many times in the previous talks. We will talk about maturity of an open source project. We will talk about sustainability. We will talk about the organization that is giving to a mature open source software and successful software a good shape, what we can do well for not in the initial part of the project, but after, when it becomes successful. And we will talk about funnel. Why? Okay, this is what I hope it will keep you alive. These only are some companies that I work with and I work for. Currently, I'm working on Backstage project. How many of you is aware about Backstage as a product, as a project? Quite a few. Okay, good. Don't worry, I'm not talking about Backstage. So, but again, this is a list of community that I attended, I work with, I loved. And this is what I would like to talk to, because all of them are successful open source project, business open source project, and I would like to discuss more about this experience. So I won't talk about how to build and to find the market fit for a new open source project, because honestly, we saw many examples here. How many of you is working for a startup? Okay, few, not many. So this is not what I'm talking about, because this is something that is like a magic poison that honestly is not something that you can explain. It doesn't make sense to talk in a talk. Instead, I would like to talk about the challenge of these poor guys, and I'm talking to you if you have worked for a startup, because usually a startup is done. It's composed by a small team working 24 hours and 7 days a week. It's a hard job. It's a hard job that, there is really a nightmare that you have all the day to find a good market fit for the product. If you are working in an open source project, but probably also if you don't work for an open source project. And this kind of people are similar to brave people that are fighting against everything, and against the dragons, the salespeople, every problem that you can have in the market. It's a huge challenge. Also, Matteo Collina was talking about this. It's hard to find the market fit of an open source project. But if you are lucky enough, if you are brave enough, you can start to reach a point where you receive recognitions. We were talking about millions and billions of downloads. We were talking about people contacting you because they want to change something. Please help me to do something. And together with this, you will find opportunities because someone may want to pay you to do something. We discussed many times that probably not too many. And this is a problem because connected to this, there is the burnout of the people. There is the failure of open source project. But if you start to have opportunity, probably you start to hire new people, to get on board new people, to work with other people. And it means that you start to spend money because you need to hire someone, or you need to invest money in marketing, in something. So there is always a conversation how we can monetize all of this. Because, sorry guys, I know, I am a former developer and I'm proud to be called a developer, but honestly, also a good open source project is a project that, of course, is founded and has money. So the monetization is a huge topic, and it's a very important topic for an healthy and mature open source project. We touched this topic many times in this conference. In my experience, and I'm sorry to say that, unfortunately, I have quite a few experience considering how old I am. There are two big examples and chunks of companies. Again, probably I'm missing some clusters, but these are the main ones that I'm aware of, and I can see into the market. The one that are the most classical, I mean, we have friends from Red Hat, but also we have friends for, I mean, it could be MySQL, Mongo. We have many companies that are releasing also an open source edition of their software, giving out for free, and they're investing a lot of time. Honestly, SysDig was showing the Falco backstage, and Spotify is doing the same thing. But of course, this is owned by someone. In case of Falco and Backstage, it is a foundation behind because they are part of the CNCF ecosystem. But for example, there are companies behind, they have a paying offering. So they offer some service, some kind of software, get paid back, and they invest in open source. And this is an healthy ecosystem, okay? This is something that works because, again, you can gain money on something and invest the money in open source, and this is a virtual circle that you can have. There is another example, there are foundations, because the software is not owned by anyone. You can see some example there. For example, I don't know if you're aware, I wasn't aware until a few years ago, but Postgres is not owned by someone. There are some companies that are making money, but no one owns Postgres as a thing, okay? And so it is a strange behavior in the market because honestly, the people the people on that side of the screen, so the companies who are owning software, are looking at the people in the foundation like a sort of hippies. Sorry for the Red Hat, it is probably an exception. But hippies hugging the trees. Yes, you are talking about software, but you are really, you don't think about the real business. You talk only about developer things. I'm not saying that I'm agreeing with that. And the other people on the foundation side look at the company owning the software like a sort of sharks of sales, and they want to sell everything, instead giving everything out behind money and monetizing the last feature because always the good thing to do. And so one look at the other in a slightly different way, but both of them are talking about the same thing, that is sustainability. Both of them, they hire people, they are investing a lot of money in developing software with one idea in mind: how I can make the salary and all the investment in marketing, in sales, in everything, sales is not the case of open source, free, how we can be sustainable, so gain money to invest in people and make an healthy and even more successful project. All of them are talking about this. How to reach the sustainability then? What's the sustainability? In the world of software, and even in the world of business open source software, I will talk more about the right side of the previous slide, so the company owned, but it's pretty similar also on the other side, with some nuances. It's all about a funnel. What, Francesco, what you're talking about? What the funnel means? Well, let me spend a few words on this. You can consider the open source approach as a funnel. Okay, you can see the picture. Why a funnel? Because there are some stages that every adopter or every software is moving along. You start from a discovery. I don't know what this software is. I want to know more. Then someone discovered that, no, this is not the right software for me. So less people move on the next stage. And then I want to trial. Okay, yes, I think that it works for me. Let me try it. Nah, this is not what I thought it was. Let me pass on the next one. Less people go on the POC. Let me try for my company. So let me show to my users, to my executives, so you can show what it is, and so on. There is a line that is always the hardest thing to do, that is called differentiation. That is exactly the line into this funnel that is dividing and is separating what to go out for free and as open source, and what can be given out under a license, under a fee, under a service, under a cost. okay? They're always aligned, and the differentiation line is not something that we can list. Okay, you can have the differentiation follow with these rules. It's very hard to find. This is exactly why it is intrigued me and it is interesting me so much. How to organize a company? So when we have the market fit, when an open source project is successful, how we can organize all of this, how we can manage all of this. Oh, by the way, what's the role of open source? I don't know, guys, if it's clear for you from a business perspective. Let me play the product manager, put the product manager hat. The open source is considered one of the most powerful way to extend the funnel. Because the bigger is the funnel, the most probable is that the people will go from here to here. And it means money. I don't know if it's clear. We have an extreme power in our hands. We can extend the funnel. You cannot imagine how companies are struggling to extend the funnel without an open source approach. It's extremely powerful. Let me stop here. You know, I'm an open source enthusiast, I told you. So, how to organize companies in this bucket of things? Well, on the commercial side of it, business as usual. Sales, marketing, sell people, do conferences, great smiles, trying to sell everything, tell me what you want, I will do it, and things like that. You pay me money, I give you service, okay? What to do there? I think in this organization, this event especially, we want to talk about the open source side of things. Let's talk about how to organize a successful open source product and company around a successful market fit and a successful open source project. First of all, on the open source side of things, challenge me and I'm happy to discuss with you. Usually the open source software is targeting developers. I'm not aware, but maybe there are, open source softwares targeting the business persona, are more coming to the IT department, developers. Open source is a topic for technical people. That is good. Techies, so data scientists, developers, QA, don't like marketing. How many of you reply to beautiful emails or phone call? Hey, I want to sell you this software, open source. Please reply to this question, and I will give you all my price list. This is not something that you can face in that way with a techie. So it doesn't work. And instead, what works is that into an open source community, you need to support the community, you need to love the community, you need to help the community, you need to recognize the community, you need to thank the community, because most of the contributions are coming from people that are working the night, the weekend, the holidays. This is how it works. You need to make developer excited to be part of the community. Can you please raise your hand and then freely reply to this question. How many of you are contributing to open source projects because they are excited to do this, not because they need and they are forced to do this? How many of you are excited to contribute to open source projects? Look at you guys, the majority of you. Okay, this is why you need to love the community, not necessarily pay, of course, if you are not doing something for work. We will touch more. On the bottom of the funnel, business as usual. It's a regular funnel or every software ever. So, thinking about what are the roles and the professional involved in all of this, on the left side you can see people that are working in the entire funnel of the open source project. So you need developer relation because you need to love a community. You need to organize meetup. You need to send swagger and gift to the people. You need to reward. You need to write blog posts. You need to do all of this. And of course, also engineering, product management, everyone should work on the entire funnel. And on the bottom of the funnel, you have business as usual. So, saying that, what are the main challenges? At least I had in mind 6 of the top 6 challenges that I experienced and I saw in successful business and mature open source project. These are in my opinion, bigger one. Most of them has been incredibly touched from the previous talk. So thank you guys of the previous speakers, because I mean, it's a perfect testament of what I'm discussing here. So the first challenge is loving the community. Guys, I have seen projects failing under the trap of let's go business only, because the community is working well, and after few years the community was completely destroyed because no recognition, no support, delay in pull request and support and things like that. I have seen failing successful open source project under this trap. The top of the funnel is so much important because it is enabling the bottom of the funnel where you get money. If the top of the funnel is not working, the bottom of the funnel is not going to work. If you are having a business open source model, of course. So, practically, what does it mean? You need to organize conference, a specific conference for a product, and attending generic conference. You need to define local meetups. You need to define community session office hours. How many of the previous mature and successful projects are simply doing a weekly Zoom call, engaging with the community? This is exactly what means enjoying the community, fostering the community. The second challenge is about, okay, but I mean, I work in my environment, into the engineering and things like that. So, I mean, someone will take care of the contribution, or will take care of the interest around how to help the community. This is not true. You guys, as part of the engineering, if you are working in an open source organization, you have to have your hands dirty in triaging the pull request, in supporting people in forums. You need to love the community, not because there is the DevRel and they will take care of this. It's also your responsibility to go there, leave the community, help the community. I mean, previously, one guy from Red Hat is a maintainer of a project. I mean, he's not necessarily asked to do that. He's doing that. He's an engineer. He's doing the right thing. And it is also your responsibility to go there and help the people. Simply also answering maybe simple questions. I'm not going to call them stupid questions because there aren't stupid questions, but simple questions. So simply also leaving the forums and the conversation. It's a way to help the community, and it's a way to engage more with the people outside. I have seen several errors in organization shaping how the engineering is working around an open source community. An example, let's take, I mean, if we have X amount of engineers and X amount of teams, let's focus the entire set of teams in delivering features, and one team or few could be good, one team only in supporting the community. Result, the single team entirely focused on answering in forums, supporting people, resigning because they are bored, it's too boring, it doesn't work. The other team, completely disconnected from the community, they start to say, why should I contribute to the community? I don't care about them. Instead, leaving the community, transversal is something, for example, I mean, I remember, this is not recent, but for example, Docker was encouraging the engineer to live and stay with a community, and it is not something that they are asking to someone specifically, but to all the organization. But it's only an example. The third challenge, we heard about this again today, is managing contribution. I'll give you an example. As part of Backstage, where I'm working with, it's a successful open source project with an amazing growth. We receive more than 100 of pull requests per week. Okay? So, question to you guys. How much time you need to review 100 of pull requests? Yeah. So if you have each week 100 of pull requests, how many people you think it is needed to do that? Okay, do you know what? How much we have in 4? Okay? So, these guys are really challenged. They are doing an amazing job. It doesn't work. For sure, it doesn't scale, because it doesn't scale. Honestly, Kubernetes world, it's a great example. Because when you have this vibrant community that wants to contribute in your project, and you don't know how to manage all the contributions that are coming, there is also this idea of the special interest groups. I don't know if you have heard about that, but it's simply a sort of dedicated session, open session, that you do through Zoom, Meet, or whatever you want. People come and say, okay, let's talk about this topic in particular. I would like to contribute on that. And so the community is managing all the contribution together in that way, together with the maintainers, of course. But this can scale because you can engage the community in managing your software. But again, managing contribution at scale in a successful project, it is challenging. Okay, I already mentioned this, the differentiation strategy. What to give out for free, what to give out under a payment, okay? This is probably one of the most difficult questions ever, and I don't think there is a common answer to this, and I'm happy to be proven as wrong, but I'm pretty sure no one can challenge me on this, because I'm going around since years to ask about this question and work on this topic in particular. It's always a tricky situation where people more on the community side tend to give things for free out, and people more on the business side, no, this is the latest feature, so it's fantastic, let's keep it internal, let's keep it legacy, let's make it cost an insane amount of money, without really checking if there is a real people that is willing to pay or not. So this is a real hard problem, and I have seen many projects failing behind this because they are giving too much out of free, so no sustainability and no money to invest in open source, or the other way around, closing too much the door, and so you lose the trust of the community, and then you become another legacy problem. So it's very hard to balance this, and this is why I love this topic. If you want to know more about this, because again, I'm passionate, I encourage you to look at these 2 articles. One is just because if you are thinking, okay, let me copy the successful one, for example, Red Hat model, let me copy them. Sorry guys, there is an amazing article that is explaining why another Red Hat it cannot exist anymore. And you will read more about this, but I'm happy to talk, and we have also a Red Hat guy here. And the second and very most important article is about from community to commercialization. For me, is fantastic. Anderson and Horowitz, I don't know if you know them, they are the inventor of Netscape. Most of you weren't born when Netscape was around. I was there, I was at the university. And they are a huge investor in open source, business open source, and they are explaining in a fantastic way, in my opinion, what we can monetize, or we could potentially monetize in an open source project and define as a differentiation study. They are both amazing articles. And a 5th challenge is my probably latest one. No, I have another and then it's finished. I remember the quote of a developer advocate for one of the products that I was mentioning at the very beginning. He was telling me this: each 6 months we have an internal meeting with executives, with sales, with all the people, all the VPs, to discuss if we should continue to have an open source and free offering. Instead, we should kill everything and move to the legacy. What's the benefit of giving out things for free? When you have a mature organization, expensive organization, an healthy business, feeling to kill the open source stuff is always there, and you need to justify why open source makes sense. And this is a continual battle, a continual fighting where you need to express and explain to a founder, an investor, why open source makes sense. Last but not least, the grow pace. I draw here two examples. Apologies for the AWS friends, but there is also other example. I don't know, how many of you is aware about this things here? Not all of them. I'm not going to explain this, but if you can Google a little bit. I mean, there are some tension in the market. I mean, the big cloud vendors are coming to influence a lot the open source ecosystem, okay? AWS did something with Elasticsearch. You can search more. But for example, this is and was a Red Hat software. It's a business process management workflow system. And I worked exactly for Activity, so I know the story, and there's nothing secret here. JBPM, that is a Red Hat solution, has been forked to become Activity. Activity became a successful business open source project and model, but then after some time there are had some problem, blah, blah, blah. It has been forked and became Camunda, but Activity and JBPM continue to exist. And because of the problem that was continuing, Activity has been forked again to create Flowable. Do you know what? All these four things exist in the market, and they're almost the same thing. And so the fact that they are growing well, it can be a problem for a mature open source software. And if you are too much successful, it can be that someone is looking at you to say, can I do better than them forking the project? So it is also a challenge. Let me close for a final thought that I think it fits pretty well also in the entire day. So I'm happy to close with this. And I would like to hear also your thoughts on this. If you are thinking that working in an open source ecosystem is like a wonderful walk on the sunset, very romantic and very amazing, because you are there beautiful and shiny in front of the sun, you're completely wrong. Working in a business open source software is more like this, where you kick someone very hard and you receive so many kicks that you are very, and it hurts a lot. Believe me, it hurts a lot. But do you know what? In my experience, again, it's a lot of years that I'm working here. For me, the feeling and the beauty of staying with people and living a community doesn't have really comparative things. It's the most amazing thing that we can do. So thank you for being part of this. Thank you for giving me all of this. I hope that you're receiving from the community the same that I received. And this is an example. Thank you.
Francesco, this is yours. You deserve it. I want to use a word. I want to use a word that I have never used before today. Amazing.
Is it the tapiro?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is not for non-Italian. But.
Are there any questions in the room? I know it's the last, but we have... Yeah, there. Wait a sec. My friend is coming.
Hi. Thank you for your talk. I really liked it. And when usually I see many projects, many open source projects that demand for maintainers and financial support, and that makes me really sad. And so I agree with you when you talk about how you can connect with the community and make your project grow with the community and make your project more discoverable and so on. And I agree with you when you talk about that you need also the project to be sustainable, and so you can, of course, work on it more. But I think it's very hard sometimes, depending on the project, to find some ways how you can make the project financially profitable, because many projects are different, and not everyone can have a easier to monetize your product. And for example, you may work on a framework for developers, or a small library, or a util for Linux, and it's hard to monetize that. But these are all really important projects. But maintainers are not going to get paid much. Is there any solution to this, or do we just have to work and
and suffer? You know?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yes.
And die there. Yeah.
Yes.
So let me share a thought. So thank you for the question. I feel it's a honest question, a transparent question, and I can feel the pain of this. And honestly, just to give you an idea, I have done an open source project 5 or 6 years ago. I have been burned out. Mm-hmm. Because I did exactly the same. No one was paying me. I was having hundreds of inquiries, like many guys was telling me, hey, fix this, hey, do that, for free, because I am a huge company and you have to do it because you are the maintainer of the project. Okay. Of course, I don't have a solution, because if I have a solution, an overall solution, I was rich selling this. But I'm working on this topic since years, and I will continue in my career. But I have something that I would like to share with you, with all of you. Please, guys, be aware that the burnout is a serious thing. I know that you know it, but I think that it's important that we recognize when we are too much under stress. And when we feel this feeling, when we are investing a lot of our holidays, our nights, because this is what it means. This is what it is working in an open source project in our private time. And I heard many examples. Please stop yourself for a second before getting burnout, and ask you exactly this kind of questions. Because if you don't have a way out, an option, because I can quote you some, I don't have a magic bullet, of course, but I can quote you some examples. So for example, talk with a mentor and someone more experienced that have already done this path, and maybe has been burned out, or has a successful open source project, also to let you understand if you can continue on this project, or it's better to stop. But something that I think we should seriously consider as developer is not waiting to be burned out and then decide to leave the project, but recognize that we have a problem before, stop for a moment before getting sick or ill about that. Because this is exactly what happened, guys. I know many stories of people that stopped work for months to recover for something that were working in nights and days to do something that was never-ending stories without any recognition, money, or something. So my recommendation is raise this question not when you feel the pain, but when you start feeling that you are going on that direction. Because I know it's hard, and this is exactly what I learned as becoming a product manager, but sometimes declaring the failure of something because you learned something else, it's probably the best thing to do for you before getting sick and not recognizing that you are doing something that is bad for you. And just to be a little bit more positive, do you know what has been my learning from the burnout that I have in the project that I have done? It was an integration between Alfresco and Pentaho and the analytics stuff. That every company into the Alfresco ecosystem was working, but they were relying on me, and I didn't gain €1 for that. And I have hundreds of adopters. The lesson learned from me is that I had so much visibility. Also, the Red Hat guy discussed about this, that I have been proposed for a job in an international company because of that, after I have been burned out. So my recommendation is try to stop a little bit early, and because guys, no one deserves to be ill or sick because of the passion that you have in what you're doing.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Oh, yeah. 2 of them. 3 of them. Okay. Let's start with the first one.
Hi. You talk about the split between the free one and the payment. But what happened when, for example, the free one exceeds the payment? For example, in the case of Spotify, the illegal versions that are online that anyone can download.
I don't think I get the exact question. Can you please? So, I mean, if I'm not wrong, you're saying what's the so what it happens is the free version of the software. And by the way, I was not mentioning the music app because I don't work on the music app.
No, it's the first example that I think about seeing Spotify.
Yeah, because I mean, of course, it's written here because the Spotify app is not an open source app. It's a freemium model, but it's not open source. Instead, for example, Backstage, that is one project, is open source and free. And then there is the pay offering. And then also Alfresco, Pentaho, and many others. So if I understand the question is more about what happens if the free and open source version exceed the offering of the paying offering.
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, there is a problem at product level, because I mean, if it means that someone is working on the open source stuff and is getting better of the paying offering, and they don't talk on each other, and the open source stuff is delivering better and more quality stuff than the paying offering. There is a huge work in silos, and also there is no product management, overall product management, because I mean, it's not a run between 2 teams. It should be a coherent strategy across the product. And again, the conversation about what to give out for free shouldn't be isolated from the conversation what should be given out under a fee. Does it make sense?
There were other questions. I remember that one, but there was another one somewhere. Okay. Lorenz? Oh,
yeah.
front row. Sorry. I was outside.
Thank you. So, question is, I'm actually using Elasticsearch, OpenSearch to be precise, and you kind of glossed over Elasticsearch versus the Amazon offering. I just want, since I'm actually using them, I'm kind of curious about the story, because I kind of have a suspicion on what it is, let's say, the story behind it.
No, so I'm happy to take it offline maybe.
Okay,
but no, do you know why? Because again, I did this example because it's pretty famous as an example. I can quote many, but I mean, my intention is not to point the finger on Amazon Elastic or this case in particular. I want only to express the concept that the big cloud vendors, and it's valid for AWS, but it's valid also for Google and all the others, are huge players in the market, and they can literally change the and impact a lot this way of working on the business open source. So again, if you agree, I mean, my intention is not to point the finger or classify this as a negative example. My point here is to highlight that the open source exists since the 70s, and it evolves through 3 generations of behaviors, because most of the people, and this is so sad, thinks about open source, about the software done by geeky in the garage, and this was in the 70s, but it's not like this. Do you know that the how is called the robot on March? The Perseverance? No, I don't remember how it's called. So, do you know that on top, do you know that NASA is using open source software there? Okay, so do you think that this is done by 2 geeky people in the garage, students? I don't think so. Okay, so to your point, I'm happy to take it offline just to show the example. But again, but it's not an example of "Oh, this is bad, you shouldn't do things. Okay.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Okay, the one, Lorenzo. I see you.
You almost made me change my mind about this question on your first answer, but do you have any practical advice or strategy to convince your manager or your boss to start an open source project or go open source? In your experience, at least.
Yeah, so yes, the first, and I worked, I am one of the most lucky person on the earth because I have the opportunity to work for a fantastic company, for fantastic projects, and I firmly believe in this kind of working. But I worked, for example, in Italy for 17 years, I'm old, I know, in consultancy and developing. One of the bigger mistakes that are often done, especially in small companies, is that, oh, let's adopt open source. It's free. No, guys, it is not free. Do you know, let me quote two incredible and valuable examples, Red Hat and VMware. In Backstage, as an example, do you know what these companies are doing? They are adopting Backstage as the front end for one of the front ends for their verticals. I'm not sharing any secret, this is public, okay? And they are asking for money for their stack and their solution on top of OpenShift and in Red Hat, and top of TAP, that is the VMware offering. And they're using Backstage for free as an open source software, okay? So, let me say, the first impression is, okay, they are stealing software. They're using this because it's software. Do you know what they are doing? They are investing back to Backstage with one team of 7 people each, plus a product manager, full-time dedicated in contributing to the open source project. So they are paying these guys here for a full stack, for a full effort into the open source world. So they are taking this for free, and they are giving back in terms of human effort, in terms of value to the product, and so they are giving back, they are taking back again where they enhance the product together with the entire community. Okay, so my advice to you is, first of all, remove from your manager that it is free, and so it's a way to save cost because someone else is contributing to this. This is so dangerous. It's so ill, and this is very common. But I don't blame them, because all of them, and believe me, it happens also in the open source business company, they don't know the open source model. So what can you do is to become expert into the open source model and explain them why open source provide value and why open source can be beneficial for them, and of course for the business and for the customers. Is it foggy enough, Lorenzo?
Maybe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, other question?
Thank you for the amazing talk. One question about the funnel that you described at the beginning. Depending from the market that our product is expected to land, the general addressable market could be larger or closer. And the problem is that at the end, every project is challenging the same market, So it's true that expanding the funnel is the best thing that you can do, but sometimes it's really hard to compete. 1 week ago, I was evaluating an operator, and at the end, I found like 4 different projects, and I was comparing them like a new car, comparing feature and things like that. And looking also at the sample that you made before with 4 different products sharing the same code base, my question is, if we're talking about owned solution, there is some point where we evaluate the market and evaluate, joining product on solution and things like that. In the open source, this is not usually happening because there is no business overview. So how we can control the challenge of the excessive number of fork of new projects that are at the end reducing the workforce that could be, shared on a general solution?
It's a good question. My answer, this is more a debate and something interesting. My answer is if you adopt what you think is the best solution at the moment and you get it for free and you invest into the project with effort, people, automatically you are contributing in making this project continuing and being healthy and make it live forever, probably. So again, my answer is the same that I was giving to Lorenzo. So think that when you adopt an open source project, you are not a smart person because you are getting something for free. You should give back some kind of effort, contribution, so that you guarantee and you continue to have this project healthy. Then it can happen that you are betting on the wrong project, but this is life. And this is part of the competition, honestly.
Thank you. Any other questions in the room?
Yeah, here, Lorenzo.
Okay.
Again, with the forking problem about the JRPC, I think.
JPPM.
Yeah, that one. That was fork with to 4
Activity,
different
blah, blah,
versions.
blah,
Yeah. Maybe could it be the maintainers wasn't able to receive possible new features? So no, the project is good as is. You can fork and go on.
I would like to give a similar answer to the previous one.
Okay.
I can tell you the story of all of the fourth because I was there when this was happening, or at least I'm aware about what happens. But the message that I'm giving to you is not about describing what went wrong in that case. The reality is that so the message that I was trying to give, and I think I gave it, is that when a project is reaching the success and a huge visibility, you will start seeing around a lot of interest. You will be contacted by maybe the cloud vendors, maybe big players to say, hey, do you know what? I want to do something with yours. And this can be impactful. I mean, not necessarily because they want to fork it, but again, when you start to get a lot of people smelling that there is business around, business is tricky, huh? So again, I'm happy to share the story in particular, but this is only an example,
Thank you.
Shirt for you, and I'm taking one last question for our friend, Mr.
I'm happy
Della
because I
Luce.
see that I didn't make you sleep too much. Too much, I say.
There you go, Jesse.
It seems really awake.
Nice. We are ready for the
hello.
cocktail. Tas.
Yeah, I'm here. So you're a product manager, and I hear you most of the things that you said because I maintain Falco, and I see the same problems from an engineering perspective, right? And my biggest question is, one thing that I noticed working in this role, an open source project backed by some B2B companies making money out of it, essentially, it's that when you are in a private product, your stakeholder is pretty clear. It's either your customer or whoever is giving you money, or another team of your company who actually have that stakeholder on their own. When you're in open source, the part of strategy that really puzzles me the most is that your stakeholders keep changing all the time. Like sometimes a contributor, sometimes it's like another company that you would like for them to contribute to your project, or your company itself. And you cannot possibly say yes to everyone. So it does is a big impact on your roadmap capabilities. So actually saying no is the biggest power. So if you had, from a product manager perspective, the top one secret sauce that you use as a best advice, or on how you do decision making, considering the fact that your stakeholders change in rotation most of the time.
The top one, huh?
Yeah, because we are short in time. I would say top three.
No, this is absolutely an interesting conversation. I have a lot to say, but we are recorded, so I cannot. So yes, it is a challenge. I give an example. We struggle in an open source world. We struggle also to have a roadmap, and I think it's valid also for you, for Falco, simply because you have so many contributions. How can you say that we will enhance the product in that direction if most of the contributions are coming from someone that you neither are aware of?
Yeah.
So also defining a roadmap, it's hard. And when you receive all this, probably saying that, I have the answer for you, but again, it's only one of the possible ones. What we do as product team is to prioritize our bet and our strategic features with our own effort. So I think that it's valid for Backstage, it has been valid for Office, but I think it's valid also for you, and correct me if I'm wrong. You have a limited set of people that your company, Sysdig, is working, is dedicating to the open source contribution. So you have a limited bandwidth, okay? And then you have an immense community that is contributing with things that you are completely out of control. So you have control of the pull request, but you cannot tell them what to develop, okay? So what you can do in your project strategy is to think about what, in your perspective, are the strategic theming where you want to invest your bandwidth and your people, okay? But you can control this, not all of this. And honestly, I don't know your opinion, but I found this really interesting in the open source world, because the product is enhancing beyond what you can do. Is enhancing because the community is enhancing the product, and they decide where to bring the product.
Yeah, it was pretty insightful.
Okay, so I would argue that we can go towards the ending of the event.